Hi everyone, it's Dina and I'm back today with another casual beading tutorial. Today I'm going to be using items from the Bargain Bead Box's February 2025 collection called the Floral Fantasy. The items that we're going to need from that box are going to be the 6mm lapis lazuli matte round beads. We're going to need the 7mm flower spacer beads. Then we're going to need the platinum plated brass figural flower toggle clasp. Other items that we're going to need are going to be some Miyuki seed beads. I have two different colors of 11-Os. I have gunmetal here, and that's Miyuki's number 451. And then I have the frosted opaque glazed rainbow nebula blue color, and that's Miyuki's number 4703. You're also going to need some beading thread. I'm going to use the Wildfire 0.006 inch and the green color today. And you're also going to need a needle, either a size 10 or 11. So gather up your supplies. The only thing that we're going to need out to begin with are going to be our 6mm gemstone beads and then your primary color of your 11-Os, which for me is going to be the gunmetal. So go ahead and get those two out and meet me back and I'll show you that first step. Alright, so what we're going to do today is make a bracelet, mainly using these gemstone beads, and then we're going to be doing the raw stitch, or the right angle weave stitch. And then we'll embellish it with some of the metal spacer beads in the next step. So what we're going to start off with doing is our base row, which is basically going to be the right angle weave row. And this is what it's going to look like, something similar to this. Don't know if it's going to exactly turn out that way when I get to that part, but it's going to be something similar to that. But we're going to do the right angle weave base first. So if you're not familiar with right angle weave, right angle weave is basically a box. You want to consider this 4 different sides. You have a left side, a right side, a top, and a bottom. Then when you look at the next one, you have a left side, a right side, a top, and a bottom. So it just continues on, where you have the left side, the right side, the top, and the bottom. So each time you add on another unit, then for me, I'll be beading in this direction. So this will be my first one, and then I'm right-handed, so I'd bead going towards the right. So when you're adding on the next unit, you have this last unit that I have, you have the left, the right, the top, and the bottom. Your right bead now becomes your left bead for your next unit. So we'll go through that here in just a second. If you need to, go ahead and put yourself a stop bead on. So I'm just picking up one of my 11-Os, going down to the end of my thread, leaving enough left over to where I can add the needle on to the thread at the end and tie it off. Just go back through that bead one more time, and that just holds it onto the thread so that way your beads won't fall off. Now, the first unit of a right angle weave, you want to add 4 units. Now in this, we're still going to be adding our 4, the left, the right, the top, and the bottom, but we're also going to add seed beads in between. So we want to pick up 4 of our gemstones one at a time with a seed bead in between. So gemstone, seed bead, and then number 2, then number 3, and then number 4. So we started with the gemstone. We want to make sure that we're ending with a seed bead. So that's what it should look like on your thread already. So go ahead and put that down all the way to the end. So you have that. Now you want to go back through, skip over that stop bead. You want to go back through that first gemstone because that's the first bead that we added. And when you go back through that first gemstone, then that puts it all into that square fashion, where now you have your left side, your right side, your top, and your bottom. Our thread's coming out of that left side bead, but we want to be coming out of the right hand side bead because, like I said, I bead with my right hand, so I'm going to be beading towards the right side. Now if you're left-handed, you're going to be in the opposite fashion. Your thread and needle, or your thread's going to be looking like this, more than likely, that your thread is coming out of the right side, and you're going to need to get yourself to the left side. So in order to do that, we need to just follow our thread path through the next seed bead, the gemstone, the next seed bead, which we just went through the top bead, and then we're going to come back through the gemstone on the right. Now we're set up to add our next raw unit. So this one, we're only going to be picking up 3 of our gemstones with a seed bead on either side. So we need to start off with a seed bead this time. Pick up your gemstone, a seed bead, gemstone number 2, seed bead, gemstone number 3, and then don't forget that last seed bead. Because in this one, we already have our left side, so we need to add the bottom, the right, and the top. So that's where these 3 gemstones come in. So we're coming out of the bottom of the right hand bead here. We're going to go through in the same direction. So go from the top to the bottom of that right hand bead again. When you pull this all down, it now puts your next unit sitting next to each other. Now here again, we're coming out of the left hand bead. When you're just looking at these 4 beads right here, we're coming out of the left hand bead. We need to be coming out of the right hand bead. Our thread is down on the bottom part of this bead, so we need to go through the beads down here on the bottom this time. So it's that seed bead, that gemstone, the next seed bead, and then come out the rightmost bead. Now we're coming out of the top of that bead. So I'll do this one more time, but this is the same repeat for the rest of the bracelet. So starting with a seed bead and then a gemstone, we're going to add 3 gemstones with seed beads in between, and then make sure you have one at the beginning and one at the end. Once you have your 3 gemstones on with the seed beads, just like that, our thread is now coming out of the top of the rightmost bead, so we need to go to the bottom towards the top. And then when you pull that tight, there you are. There's your 3rd unit of right angle weave. So let's get ourselves back over here again, because this is just like the first unit. We're going to go through that seed bead, the top gemstone, the seed bead, and then the gemstone on the right. And now you're set up just like the second unit to continue on with your next right angle weave. So continue this all the way down until you are basically almost to the point where your bracelet is almost done. Don't forget to leave about an inch or so of space in order to be able to put your toggle on. I usually suggest between an inch to an inch and a half for a toggle. I usually do about an inch though, but just depends on what your preference is. So go ahead and continue this raw units all the way to the end, and I'll meet you back and show you the next step. Alright, so I am done with the length of the bracelet that I need for myself. So the way that I measure this, because I do not have a bracelet mandrel just yet, I have plans on getting one, I just haven't gotten it yet. But how I measure this is I take my wrist, wrap it around, and then when the beads almost touch and or touch themselves, depending on what clasp I'm using, then I know I'm ready to end the bracelet off. So if I were to add one more unit, then the beads would be almost overlapping. So I decided to go ahead and end it right here, because when we add the toggle clasp, the toggle portion of it, this part, the bar portion of the toggle clasp, we can always add a couple of extra jump rings if we need to make it a little bit longer. So one way or another it'll work out. So I think I counted 18. In order to count your spaces, if you're not familiar with that, you can count how many raw units you have. You count your spaces. And so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I have 15. So 15 of my raw units. So now that we're down here at the bottom, or at the end, what we're going to do is we're going to make a seed bead loop, so that way we can attach our toggle on this side eventually with the jump ring. So I'm going to try picking up, I haven't tried this yet, so let's try 4, 5, 6, Let's do 9, 7, 8, 9. I just want to have enough beads on the outer edge of this last gemstone to where you have enough room to put a jump ring in, and it'll flow freely within that and not get stuck up into the beads itself. So 9 actually worked out pretty good. So I think I'll keep that. So I'm going to go back through these beads 2 more times. At the end of bracelets, or at where the clasps are put on with bracelets and everything, that's usually where the most tension of your bracelet is going to be at. So I always try to use as much thread as I can going through the beads whenever I'm using thread and beads with it. If you have a wire guard, that would be another option that you can use, is just add a couple of seed beads, like maybe 3 or 4, and then add your wire guard, and then on the other end you can add 3 or 4 more seed beads again. Or you can add this loop and then add your wire guard in one of the center beads right here, something like that. Alright, so now that I'm through that again, I'm going to go back through my gemstone one more time. And here is where you have to kind of look at your bracelet. If your bracelet is tight and you like the tension of what it looks like and everything, then you can go ahead and just leave it like it is if you like. Or if it's somewhat loose, like some of these are kind of getting hanging out a little bit further than they should be, or you're just not happy with the tension, then go ahead and go back through all of your beads one more time. With that meaning, you know, you're coming out of the bottom right hand bead here, go through the bottom beads here, go up the left side, go across the top, go down that side, this bead, then go across the bottom, and then zigzag your way back. So it's either way. I'm going to go ahead and leave it just the way it is, and I'm going to start doing my embellishments. So I have my second color of beads out. I'm not going to use any more of the first color until I get back down to this side, so I can add a loop on this side to mimic what we did on this side. So I'm coming out of that rightmost bead on the bottom. I'm going to go through that first seed bead. So I'm coming out of the seed bead. That's right in between the rightmost gemstone and the bottom gemstone of that unit. I'm going to pick up 3 of the blue seed beads, 1 of my spacer beads, and these spacers are oriented in this fashion. Now I'm not going to really worry about which way I pick these up, because if you notice, I'm going through the bead where it's going through the petal, and I'm coming out of the bead where it's in between 2 petals. So it's slightly different. If that's something that will bother you, or if you want it symmetrical, then just pay attention to which side that you go through. Me, I'm just going to pick a bead, and I'm just going to go. So I'm going to pick up 3 of my 11-ohs, a spacer bead, and then 3 more 11-ohs. And then pull that down. Now we're coming out of that seed bead down here, this seed bead right here. I'm going to go across to the seed bead that's up here in between the top bead and the left bead of this raw unit. And I'm going to go through that seed bead going towards the left bead. And then when you pull that, just make sure these beads stay on the top of the bracelet and don't flip to the back, because sometimes that can happen. Then your beads will sit on your bracelet like that. So now we need to get set up for the next bead. So I'm going to go through the bead going in that direction, and then we're going to go through that first seed bead again. And now we're set up to do the same thing that we just did. So we're going to pick up 3 of our 11s, 1 of our spacers, and 3 more 11s. And we're coming out of this seed bead down here. We're going to go to the seed bead that's in between the top and the left of this raw unit. So this one right here. We're going to go through that seed bead going towards the left hand side. Like that. And then there again, just make sure it stays on the top because it'll try to flip to the back. That's just the nature of this type of bracelet. And there you go. So that's how we're going to embellish our bracelet. So go ahead and continue all the way back down to the other side of the bracelet, and I'll show you how to do the other loop again, just as a refresher, and then we'll add our clasp and we'll be done. Alright, so I'm done embellishing the bracelet. And I did a double check to make sure that it's still about the same size. It did shrink up just ever so slightly, so you can see that there's a little bit extra room right there. So probably adding that extra right angle weave probably would have been a good idea, but that's okay. Because if you want to, here at the end, you can add another right angle weave unit. So you can add on right here if you like. So I'll go ahead and I'll actually show you how to do that since we are sitting here, just in case you do need to add on just like I do. So I've already finished all the embellishments and everything, but we're already coming out of that right hand bead. So just like we did in that first step, we're going to add 3 more gemstones with seed beads in between, and then at the beginning and at the end. So it's just like adding on another right angle weave unit. Getting hard for me to say this late at night. So I'm going to go back through the bead because my thread was coming out the top, so I'm going through the bottom and out through the top. So there's our next unit. Now we need to add our embellishments. In order to do that, we just need to go through this next seed bead that's right here. And then we're set up to do the same thing that we've been doing as far as adding those embellishments. So let me get another one of my beads out here. One of those guys. And then we'll pick up 3 of our seed beads in the blue color. Pick up the last of our metal beads, and then 3 more seed beads. And then if you remember, we were going through the opposite side, so we're going through the bead that's down over here in the direction of, right now, the right hand side. If I were to flip it this way, that's where we were going. We were coming out of the bead down here where my thumb is, and coming out the bead over here going towards the left. But I have it flipped this way, that's why I'm saying right. So hopefully that doesn't mess anybody up. And then I'm pulling tight and making sure my tension's good, because my tension got a little wonky there on that pull. So I'm loosening everything up a little bit just to get it all tightened back up again. And there we go. Now we have another unit, so we can double check it again and see what it looks like. And then now we're back to where it was at the beginning. So now we're going to add that extra loop on to the end so we can add our toggle clasp. So we're coming out of that seed bead, and my tension just got loose again. That's what I get for playing around with everything. Alright, so if that does happen, just go back through everything one more time. In fact, I think that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back through that bead. I'm going to go back through the right angle unit again. So I'm going to go through all the seed beads and the gemstones there in that last unit, just because everything's kind of getting loose because I keep playing around with it too much. So I'm just going to go through all those beads one more time and then come out the rightmost bead, rightmost gemstone, so we can add our 9 seed beads as a loop around the side. So now we're sitting there, so I'm going to pick up 9 of gunmetal color again. 7, 8, and 9. And then we're going to go round this out, go back through the bead again, and then we're going to put 2 more strands through these beads. And then we can add our toggle after this, and our bracelet would be done. After we burn off the thread, we got to tie off too. Almost forgot about doing that. So I'll show you how to tie off in just a second. Once I go through these last little beads, starter thread keeps getting in the way. Okay, that's the last 2 seed beads in that loop. Alright, so go back through because we need to get back over here is where our starter thread is. Since we added that extra unit, we can go back through the bead again, the gemstone here on the right. And my thread's getting caught on the beads. We're going to continue through the 11-0, the gemstone, and then the 11-0 up here at the top. And then we'll stop right there because that is where our starter thread is. So at this point in time, you'll take your starter thread, and you got that stop bead there, so you want to take your stop bead off. Then we're just going to tie a simple knot. So I have the shorter thread in my right hand, I have the longer thread in my left hand. I put the shorter thread over the longer thread and create a loop. Then the shorter thread goes through that loop towards me once. Create another loop with the shorter thread over the loop and through, going away from me once. And then that's tied off. Now I have my bracelet on the back. I'm going to go through that gemstone that's sitting there. I'm going to do one more knot down here, just for good measure. So I'm going to go underneath the bridge threads of that seed bead that's sitting, underneath the bridge thread of that seed bead that's sitting in between the gemstone right here and then the seed bead. I'm going to create a loop, and then I'm going to go through that loop one time with my needle, and then make sure that thread stays in between the gemstone and the seed bead, and then you pull tight. And then that just gets just another knot in your beadwork. Then I'm going to move the thread needle away just one more time, and then I'll burn off there. So I can burn about 1/4 of an inch or so left of thread. Nope, that one was kind of short, but that's okay. Let's see if I can move it to where I can get it down. There we go. And then you just make a little ball of thread that sits right there at the bead, and it makes it a little bit harder for the knot to come out. So do that with the starter thread. Leave about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch, somewhere around in there, and then just burn it down with the thread burner. There you go. So now you have this part of your bracelet done. We only have one more thing to do. We need to add our clasp. So let me move some of these beads out of the way real quick so the camera doesn't go crazy trying to figure out what it is that it needs to focus on, or at least hopefully it doesn't go crazy. Sometimes it does it on its own. I'll move the thread out of the way and the needle. Alright, so this is the jump ring that came with the clasp, but we're going to need at least one more jump ring. So I'm going to grab some jump rings out of my stash. I'm just going to grab out, 2 of my 6mm jump rings that I have just laying here. And then on one of these sides, I'm going to go ahead and put the round portion of the clasp over here. So we need to get 2 pliers so it's easier to open and close your jump rings. And then I'm going to put, this jump ring's already open, so I'll show you how to open the other ones with the other jump rings if you don't know. Then we're going to put this jump ring in this side of the beads and this loop right here. And of course it's not going to work because I'm recording and it's getting late at night, and I've been recording all day long because it is Friday for me, and that's what I do on my Fridays that I have off. Alright, so now you want to add your clasp. Now the toggle, this loop of the toggle has a front and a back. So this is the front that you see the flower on the side, and then this side you see like the back side of the flower. And I just dropped everything. So you want to make sure that you put your clasp on facing the front. So I am holding, or was holding, the bracelet facing the front. There we go. Okay, work with me, jump ring. I know it's late. We can do this. Okay, so I've got the jump ring there, so I want to make sure that I'm putting the clasp on the correct way. Now close this little jump ring up before it tries to fly out of my hands again, which jump rings like to do that when it gets late on a Friday night, and I've been recording all day long. So that is on that side. So now on this side, we're going to add 2 jump rings just to give it a little bit of extra space. So to open a jump ring, you find the opening of the jump ring in the center, and then you take 2 pliers on either side of it, and then you just twist like that. That opens your jump ring. So I'm going to put this one on just the same way that I did the other one, and hopefully this one goes on easier. Yay, it did. And then in this case, I'm going to go ahead and add the other jump ring right away. And then close it up. Whoops, starting to shake now. That's when I know it's getting late, when my shaking starts getting really, really bad. There we go. So that's closed. Now we need to add on the toggle portion, so we need to open up this second jump ring that we have here. And then make sure that this is facing the correct way, which actually I may have to add a 3rd jump ring in order to get that facing the correct direction, because I think, is that facing? Oh no, that is facing the right way. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you just needed 2 jump rings like that. So I needed 2 jump rings anyway. How about that? Okay, so now your bracelet is complete. Alrighty, so I want to say thank you for watching. Here is the completed bracelet. This bracelet ended up being just a little bit too big for me, but that's okay because I added on that last unit and I wasn't quite sure if I really needed it or not, but I wanted to go ahead and show how to add on the unit just in case somebody did need to add one on if their bracelet was too short. But so that's fine, but I usually sell my bracelets anyway, so I need to make a few bracelets that are bigger than what I wear because I tend to wear bracelets a little bit tighter than most people. So it works out all great and fine. So this is what it looks like. So thanks again for watching my casual beading tutorial with the Bargain Bead Box Floral Fantasy Collection of February 2025 using the lapis lazuli beads as well as the metal spacer beads and the toggle clasp that came in the box. So thanks again for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that way you'll be notified when the next time I come out with the next new video. So thanks again. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.